Hello and welcome to the Boat Pod. I'm joined here today by the lovely ladies from the Poetry Pharmacy to celebrate World Poetry Day. And I'm really thrilled to be able to sit down and chat with you about all things poetry.
We're delighted to be here.
So to kick us off, why don't, for anybody who's listening who hasn't heard of the Poetry Pharmacy before, could you just give me a brief introduction as to what it is that you guys do?
For me, in terms of how I interpret it, is about finding a way to make the therapeutic benefits of poetry accessible. I think poetry can still seem like such a lofty art form, and there's so much room in it in terms of how it can relate to people, in the same way that we all relate to kind of a wide variety of music. It's like there is a wide variety of poetry.
It's a really fine balance, I think, between like a poet having and honing a craft and there being like thought and meaning behind it for the poet, and then when you put it in the hands of somebody else, it becomes their interpretation of it.
And it's so funny how we have that framework for poetry, but like with music, you can have your own interpretation of it, right? And we don't feel as scared, I feel like, to give our own understanding and meaning behind our favorite song or why we're drawn to a certain genre of music. Like I have a friend who like her relaxing music is classic rock. And I'm like, I could never relax listening to classic rock. But for her, that's how she unwinds. Whereas for me, I want to listen to like soft jazz. But, you know, nobody is going to say, oh, you're not smart enough, you're not cultured enough. But when it comes to poetry, we're kind of forced to be like, oh, what's the hidden meaning? What did the poet mean by this? What metaphor am I missing out on? When it should just be, how does this string of words make you feel?
And that's actually one of the things I really love about the Poetry Pharmacy in terms of the different ways that people can lean into poetry. So we have books, we have pamphlets, we have, gifts, we have the pill bottles. And I really like that. So it doesn't have to be buy this book, sit down with a poem and you must, read it like you would have done at school.
Yeah. And words do hold so much power in a way that I think sometimes we forget, perhaps in our really fast-paced world, by how just two lines can ground you or can remind you of something or center you.
We should probably say as well, the Poetry Pharmacy is a shop pharmacy combo, I would say, a word pharmacy. So yeah, as Kate mentioned, we have a wide range of books, not just poetry books, but also words around well-being. And then we have, the poetry on prescription, which is a dispensary with a range of different bottles that are associated with different feelings.
I would say it's one of the best bits for me about working at the Poetry Pharmacy is seeing people really lean into their instinct and lean into what they might need. I feel really privileged to have heard so many people's stories and to be on Oxford Street and be having beautiful conversations with people about death and grief and meaning and living and taking risks and being authentic. And I think it's so rare. I mean, I can't imagine how many other people are having those conversations on Oxford Street. And I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah. You're literally in the heart of consumerism, aren't you, on Oxford Street? Where, you're being told, oh, there's this problem with you, so buy this thing. And so it's lovely for you to offer this space where it's more about just how you're feeling and you're not being pushed towards buying anything. It's just an invitation to say what speaks to you. I love the overlap with the work that I do with what you're doing as well. So with my work where I write poetry for strangers and I sit with my typewriter and I ask people to come up to me and I just ask them, what's on your mind or your heart? Tell me something and I'll use that as inspiration to write you a poem. And it is that permission slip, like you were saying, that invitation to say people, okay, what do you need today? What's on your mind? And I think people sometimes are quite taken aback by being allowed to do that because nobody usually asks them what's on your mind, like in an honest way. Usually it's just, oh, how's the weather? Da, 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 and you get on with life. So what was the inspiration behind the Poetry Pharmacy?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm going to try my best to channel Deb. So a brilliant woman called Deb Alma set the Poetry Pharmacy up. And sort of the idea was born many years ago, 2011. She bought an ambulance off eBay, a vintage ambulance, and she would drive up and down the country. She called herself the emergency poet, and she would get people to come into the ambulance and lie down and tell her how they were feeling. And then she would prescribe them a poem based on what they told her. And it was like, there's something here, there's something in this. And then a shop became available in Bishop's Castle where she was living. And so she decided to take it into a physical space. I think she was quite tired from driving an ambulance around.
We've got some of the Poetry for Prescription here with us today. So if I was to come into the shop, could you explain how the process works?
Yeah, of course. So the Poetry on Prescription is essentially a variety of different bottles of poetry pills. So they're not pills to be swallowed. They are pills rather to open.
Should we do it as if you came in? Do you want to do a prescription?
Yeah, I would love that. Oh my goodness.
Fantastic. So we have, I think, 7 bottles here with us. So do you want to have a look through them and see just today where you are this morning, which you feel most drawn to?
I think comfort is really lovely.
Perfect. And so actually that's one of our most popular ones. Yeah. So yeah, I probably should say what we've got here is we've got Boost of Confidence, we've got Happy Pills, we've got Restore, which is one of our newer ones, Inspiration, Carpe Diem, and Joy/Us, which is around kind of queer joy, particularly curated from an anthology. And they're some of our, I'd say, our kind of most popular sellers, really, particularly kind of Comfort, Happy Pills, Boost of Confidence, I think particularly. Great. So let's write you a prescription. So it's Olivia.
That's me.
And so what was it around comfort that drew you in today?
I have been traveling quite a bit recently, and it's been really expansive and definitely the kind of push out of my comfort zone that I've needed. But then also settling back afterwards, I've just been looking for, okay, what does ground me? What are the comfort things in my life that I can have while I'm growing and going outside of the comfort zone?
So kind of stability. Perfect. And would you say you feel like you're more in need of comfort in a morning, in an evening, or is there a particular time of the day that you're getting a sense of needing to lean into that?
I think in the evening, actually, after kind of a really busy day, to unwind and to just ground and settle myself and know that, yep, I'm happy with how the day has gone, regardless of what's happened.
Do you have a particular drink you find comforting when you're kind of winding down in the evening?
I'm a big tea drinker. I've definitely been converted over here in the UK by having multiple cups of tea a day. So having a peppermint or a chamomile tea at the end of the day is lovely.
And is there a place that you enjoy having that in your house or anywhere in particular that you like to sit?
Probably on the couch in the living room. Yeah, I've got 2 kitties, so cuddling with them.
What are your kitties called?
Romeo and Aurora.
Romeo and Aurora. Perfect. They'll make its way in. Perfect. So I'll write you a prescription, but whilst I do that, do you want to maybe have a look inside?
I'll have a look inside. I'll bring it up and show everybody so you can see. I'm so excited. It's Emily Dickinson. That's all I've seen so far. And it's one of my favorite poems ever. Would you look at that? Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. It's so satisfying, just the even the ASMR of popping it open and then having the tactile feel of the paper in your hands and the unrolling, because it's oh, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? What's it going to be? And it's oh, there it is. It's like a little surprise.
Well, and it almost kind of further stimulates, what we know about poetry and the brain and kind of the pleasure sensations that can come from finding things we connect to in words. And it's almost like the process of finding that also stimulates some of that pleasure seeking, right? Because there's a curiosity to it and there's an exploration to it. And it's also, I think there's something very physical.
Oh my God, it's so cute. So the Boat Pod is a home for all different types of art forms, but I think it's anchored in music especially. And there's definitely lots of crossover between poetry and music. They go hand in hand. They definitely inform each other. So I thought we could just chat a little bit about some of your favorite types of music and how you feel like poetry impacts music and how music impacts poetry for you.
I mean, I love the question when people say, what's your favorite type of music? I feel that way when people say, what kind of poetry do you write? Or what's your favorite type of poetry? Because my answer is, I don't know. Or everything.
Yeah. I sort of wish as a poet I was more confident in doing what musicians do, where they go, I really love the chorus, I'm just going to repeat it. I feel like there's something really interesting there. But I think one of the songs that I picked is a song by an artist called Mark Knopfler, and he's one of my dad's favourites. And I feel like I've got to know my dad so well through his music.
I have a friend as well who will do this thing where she has like her collection of sad songs that she listens to when she's feeling sad. And she's like, if I'm not feeling sad enough 30 seconds in, I'll just restart the song so that I can feel the sadness that I want to feel. And so, yeah, it's amazing how we kind of use art forms in a cathartic way and to process how we're feeling. Should we have a listen to that song?
Yeah.
Which one was it?
It's called Laughs and Jokes, Drinks and Smoke.
Laughs and jokes, drinks and smokes, and no lights on the stairs. We were young, so young, and always broke. Not that we ever cared. Not that we ever cared.
This has been so lovely getting to chat with you and getting to know more about the Poetry Pharmacy. Thank you so much, everybody who's been listening and watching. If you want to find out anything more about the Poetry Pharmacy, everything is linked down below.
Yeah, thank you. That was so lovely.
Yeah, that was
Good. I'm so
It was
glad.
so nice to chat to you.
Yeah, you really
Good.
were.
Yeah.